In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the text drawing and text editing options available in VCarve Pro and Aspire. So we'll look at options for adding text, letter kerning and editing text, converting text to curves, wrapping text around a curve, and also we'll look at using the interactive envelope distortion tools with text. Okay, let's start with the first text entry drawing tool. So the first tool allows us to draw simple text, so we can enter some text, let's say Vectric Limited. We can then click where we want the text to be drawn. So if I click in the two-dimensional view, it picks up the anchor points for the X and the Y coordinates where I've drawn the text. We can specify the height for the text. Let's say we want the text to be 2 inches high and apply. We can specify the font. So any fonts that we've got installed on the PC that we're running automatically become available inside VCarve Pro or Aspire. So for example, if we change this font to be Times New Roman, we make it bold and apply, the font automatically gets updated in the two-dimensional view. We can also change from TrueType fonts to single stroke fonts that are supplied with the software. So we have a number of single stroke fonts. Some of the more commonly used ones are Helvetica 1L, so that's Helvetica single line and apply. So now we've got the font or the text just drawn using single lines or single vectors. If we go back to the TrueType fonts and apply, with the TrueType font, you've always got a closed boundary for a vector, for a letter that you can machine inside. If we look at the single stroke fonts and apply, let's go to another. For example, let's look at the script single stroke and apply. This is just a single vector line, and the only way to machine this text is to use the profile machining with the profile of the tip of the cutter running on the selected vectors. Let's go back to TrueType for a moment. So TrueType and apply. So we've got options for making it bold and italic or italicized. Switch that one off for a moment. We can also align it left or right or centered. So for example, the second line, if we wanted this to be justified to the right, or we can say justified to the left from the selection point, or we can say justified in the middle. So this is simple text drawn at a specific height of 2 inches. If we close the form for a moment, if we click on the background to deselect the text, if we wish to change this, we simply select by clicking with the left mouse button, click on the text drawing tool. The text becomes available in the text entry box, and we could change this to be we could change the name to be Vectric software. Let's put that on 2 lines and apply. So now we've updated the text. So at any time, if you click and select the text, you can go back and edit the text. There's also an option here to change the spacing for the text. So this is used for what's referred to often as letter kerning. So if we change the spacing, when we place the cursor over the text, you'll see that we can place the cursor between letters. If we just zoom in a little bit, if we wanted to move the S and the O closer together, by clicking, they get closer together. Click again, they get closer together again. If you hold the Shift key down and click, the letters jump apart. If you hold the Control key and the Shift together, they jump apart in a bigger increment. If you just hold the Control key on its own and click, the letters jump together in a bigger increment. So with no keys held down, the letters will get closer together. Holding the Shift moves them apart. Holding Shift plus Control moves them apart in bigger increments. So let's kern these letters. For example, here we've got quite a big gap between the E and the C, and we can move those together. You may decide that some letters are too close together. So for example, the R and the I there. So if we click, they get closer together. But if we hold the Shift key down, they move apart. So letter kerning is quite powerful. We could, for example, here the T and the W, if we hold the Shift key down and click, we can move them apart. to make the letter or make the sign or the text just look a bit more interesting. Here we've got a big gap between the W and the A, so clicking between them brings the letters together, so it kerns the letters closer together. So letter F to zoom to fit. We could also break the text into two separate lines. If we go for the selection tool, so selection, select the text. If we right click on the text, there's an option here to break the text into lines. So if there was multiple lines of text here, at the moment we've only got two, but if we say break the text into lines, we've now got two separate lines of text. So if we select a line of text, click on the text tool, you'll see that just the word Vectric becomes selected. So we could, if we wanted, we could change the font for that. So we edit this, we could say, okay, we want this to be an Arial font. So let's look for an Arial and apply. So we've got a different font. Close. There's also a when you're working with a single line of text, we can also use the text editing tool to not only move text together or kern letters, we can also use the option to change the curvature. We can interactively click and drag the text. If we select the top text there, you'll notice that the cursor changes. We get the little nodes. Place the cursor with where it jumps to a little arc. This means that we can arc the text like so. When arcing the text, if we zoom in a little bit, you'll notice the letters may get further apart. So we can use the kerning again, so clicking between the letters to bring them closer together. So there's quite a big gap between the V and the E, just to make the text look much better if we were going to engrave this. So the S and the O, we can click and bring those together, but you may decide that for example, the W and the A need to be pushed apart, so we could say Shift key held down and move them apart. Nothing held down, we move the A and the R together. So very powerful, letter F to change that, very powerful letter kerning there, and we can change the curvature. We can also click on the outer handles, so here we can change the radius of curvature by clicking on the blue handle, or the outermost handle. We can rotate the text around. If you hold the Control key down, the text jumps in increments of 15 degrees. So you can make sure that you get it back horizontal again. So to do that, we've been using the very simple text entry tool, and we converted two lines of text to separate lines, and then we can use the option to use the kerning tools and the arcing tools. If we edit text, so if we click on the background, if we've made some changes by doing the letter kerning and arcing this text. If we go back and edit this text and we hit the apply button, let's just select the text. So the text is displayed in the text box. If we apply, the text will lose all of its format properties and it will return to a standard font, horizontal font. If we do the same with the software here, so apply, and it's gone back to its original state. Another option that's available is the ability to break the text into separate vectors. So with a block of text selected, we can use the option to convert the text to curves. You have to be very careful if you use this tool, because once you've converted the text to curves, it's no longer a font. So you can't go back and edit the text as a font. For example, if you made a spelling mistake, at the moment we can go back and say edit this text. We could change the wording, the letters or the words to as required. Once you've used the convert to curves tool, that option is no longer available. These are now vectors that can be edited using the node editing tools or the sizing tools. So we could say node edit, we could come in here and we could say, okay, we want this to be an arc. Let's make the arc go outwards, and also we want an arc on this side as well, so convert that to an arc. We'll do the same on the bottom, so convert to an arc. So we could edit that font like so, But if we select this text, so drag and select, if we go to the text entry tool, it's not recognized as text that's based on a font. So we've lost the ability to edit the text and change the font type. What we can do though is we can use the edit and do tool. So we can say edit and do, and we can step back to this point where it's now back as a font, edit the text, and you'll see that the text can now be edited. We could change this to be Vectric Limited and apply, and it's updated the text for us. Okay, let's just move this text to the bottom of the screen. So to do that, I've dragged to select the text, click a second time, and click and drag with the left mouse button to move it to the bottom of the screen, like so. Let's look at wrapping text around a circle now. So if I draw a circle, let's draw the circle in the two-dimensional view like that. Now if we select the circle and shift and select the text that we wish to wrap around the circle and use the option to wrap text around a curve, if we go with the defaults and say apply, the text has been wrapped around the inside of the curve. If we say wrap the text around the other side and apply, the text has now been wrapped on the outside of the curve. But we may have wanted the text to be starting on the left hand side and going around clockwise around this circle. Now to do that, we could say start from the left and apply. So it started from the left and it's going clockwise, but it's starting at the 12 o'clock position. And the reason for that, if we just close the form, we say edit and do. The reason for that is if we node edit this circle, so we use node editing tool or press the letter N, you'll see the green, if we zoom in a little bit, the green node, this represents the start point. If we wanted the text to start at 9 o'clock and go clockwise around the circle, we place the cursor over the node at 9 o'clock, click the right hand mouse button and make this the start point, or press the letter P. It turns green. So now if we select the circle, shift and select the text, fit text to curve and apply, by default it's gone on the inside. We'll say on the other side of the selected vector, and we want it to start on the left and apply. So it's starting at where the green node is and working its way around the outer edge of the circle. We could specify the text to be the circle to be running through the middle of the text, like so, or we could have the text on the inside of the circle, but then it would all get quite squashed. Let's say above the circle and apply. We could set an offset, so we could say, okay, we want this text to be 0.4 of an inch away from the circle. And there's also some options here for scaling, so we could scale the text to fit all the way around the circle, maintain the original text size. The scaling option can be used to scale. If we say we only want it to be 50% and apply, so it's now only 50% around the circle. If we wanted it to be squashed even more, so you can specify the region of the profile that you've got selected, which portion of it you want the text to be fitted to. So let's say maintain the original text sizing. Now the really nice thing about the option of wrapping text around the curve is we still retain the ability to use the text kerning tool. So we say edit the text, select the text, and we could say, okay, really we feel that the V and the E are too far apart. So we can move the text around by clicking with the left mouse button. So you can make it look much more interesting by kerning the letters. Again, kerning them close together just by clicking, or if they get too close, like the R and the C, the R and the I there, hold the shift key down and they'll move apart. Okay, so that's wrapping text around a closed circle. Let's look at some of the alternative options. Let's say Control Z, The quickest way to get the text back to be horizontal text is simply to select the text, edit the text, select the text is now listed in the text creation box, and apply, and it's gone back to standard text. Let's just move that to the bottom of the screen for a moment. Let's say we want Vectric software to be around the top of the circle, Vectric limited around the top, and we want software to be around the bottom. But these are two separate blocks of text, two different fonts. The way to do that is to select the circle or the curve, enter node edit, and we're going to cut it into two separate segments. So I'm going to place the cursor over the green dot, right hand mouse button, say cut, or press the letter C. Place it on the right hand side, let's press the letter C, and now we've got two separate curves. So we've got the arc on the top and the arc on the bottom. Double click with the right mouse button to get out of node editing mode, and now we're back in selection mode. Now if we go to enter node edit, the key thing to remember is the green node is the start node. So if we want the text to start on the left hand side and go clockwise, we really want this to be our start point. If we want software to be on the bottom, to start on the left hand side and come round to the right, so anti-clockwise, again we want the start node to be at the same point, which it is. Okay, so now we can select the curve, shift and select the text, fit the text to the curve, and if we say scale to fit the curve and apply, the text has been fitted around the curve for us. Now we could say, okay, we want that to be over a smaller segment, so let's make it over, say, around about 70% and apply. So it's just scaled the text down. We may want the text to be slightly offset, so we'll give it a distance. We'll say we want it to be 0.2 of an inch away, and apply. So now the key thing here is that we're in the middle of that selected arc. So middle and close. Now if we want the word software to be along the bottom here, I'm going to select the circle, shift and select the text, fit the text to the curve again. Let's just see what we get with the defaults. So it's gone on the inside of the curve. Let's say we want the text to be on the other side and apply, but it's starting on the right and it's going clockwise. We want the word software to run along the bottom. So to do that, we're just going to say, okay, below the curve and apply. So now we want instead of the text being on the inside of the curve, we're going to say we want text to be on the other side. So switch that off and apply, and the text has been fitted around the outside of the selected arc. And it's also too big. We want to scale this down. So we'll say instead of 100%, we'll make this much smaller, and we want it to be central and apply. So in the bottom segment, again, we can make it a touch smaller by scaling the text down and apply. And the key thing here is that we've been experimenting with text on the different sides of the curve. We want the text to be fitted in the middle of the selected segment. We could go justified to the right, or we could say justified to the left. Remember, the start point is at 9 o'clock, or we could simply say in the middle. And we could specify a distance. Let's say we want this to be 0.4 of an inch away, and it moves the text away from the curve. So a couple of different ways to wrap text around a curve, but to give you more control, instead of wrapping it around one complete circle, we break the circle into smaller segments and wrap different words or different blocks of text around each of the different circular segments. Let's move on and look at some more text editing options. What I'm going to do is drag and select everything and delete. The other text drawing tool is the option to draw text and automatically scale the text to fit inside a selected area. If we've got nothing selected, all we've got, if we press F to zoom to fit, nothing selected, and we say enter text, if we say Vectric and apply, the software automatically fits the text inside the boundaries of our material size. Let's just copy that for a moment so we can reuse. If I can say Control C. Now, let's delete that for a moment. If we draw a rectangle, so let's say we've got a rectangle there, like so. We want the text to, that might be an area on a sign that is in the center of a sign or a plaque, and we want to engrave the text there. If we draw this rectangle, we can now say enter some text, use the word Vectric, and note that there's nothing on this form where we specify the height of the font. We simply say apply, and the software automatically scales it to fit. The key thing is the margin size. If we say no margin and apply, the text is fitted to the boundaries of the selected rectangle. If we say a wide margin, we get quite a wide margin to the left and the right. A normal margin, we get half the distance. We can also stretch the selection, so we can stretch the characters vertically and apply, so they'll be scaled vertically to fit in the box. Not sure where you'd use that, but it's an option that is there. If we say no stretching, it goes back to a default standard font. Okay, we've still got the same options here. We can make the font bold, we can italicize, we can select any true type fonts, we can enter multiple rows of text and apply, and it's automatically being fitted. If we added another row, so let's say we've got a software for CNC and apply, the text is being scaled to fit inside the box there. If we added another one and apply, you'll see now that the text is getting smaller, but it's been scaled and squashed to fit inside this selected box that we started with. Let's say Control Z will take us back a few steps and close. F to zoom to fit. Okay, so that's the tool that we've been using there. If we just select the text, is the option to automatically scale the text inside a selected boundary. Very useful for positioning text on a component that's maybe been bought in. So it could have been a plaque that you've bought, and you don't want to be experimenting, so you can draw a rectangle exactly where you want the text to go, and the software will scale it to fit. Okay, let's move on and look at how we can use the envelope distortion tools with text, and this tool also works with any other selected vectors. So here we're going to let's just delete this outer boundary, delete the text for a moment. Let's say add some text again, Control V, so Vectric, and apply. So the text has been fitted into our 2D view. We'll make it bold, so we've got bold font there, and close. Let's just select the text. We can say select, use the envelope distortion tools, and we can say distort the bounding box here, so we could say apply, and we can very easily just click and drag to make the text look as if it's got some sort of perspective being applied, or make it look as if the text is moving away from us. So very quick to just click and drag. We can also change these outer boundary curves, so we could place the cursor over a boundary, and we can use the right hand mouse button and say convert this to a bezier curve. When it's converted to a bezier curve, we've got some extra control, so we can change the handles, and we can make the text look as if it's sort of leaning over to the right. Very easy to work with. Again, on the bottom curve we could say insert a point, so right hand mouse button, we could say insert a new node or point, and we can pull these lines apart like so. We could do the same on the top. We could say convert this back to a line and insert a point. So insert a point, or press the letter I and just click and drag to change the perspective and change the way that the text appears in the 2D view. So it's great for artistic designs, great for sign making, very quick and easy to use, and you can get some very interesting results. When you've finished editing a particular project, we can say bake the distorted object. So if we say bake and close, what we've now got is separate vectors. So we no longer have the text as a font that can edit. It's gone back to, or it's been converted to vector outlines. So these are just separate shapes that we could edit and change the shape of manually. Let's use the edit undo button to go back a few steps. So we can toggle back until we get back to our original font here. So let's go back another step. Escape to come out of envelope distortion mode, and we're now back to the text mode. And to check that, we can literally say click on edit text, and the word Vectric turns up, indicating that we're back as a font. Okay, so we've looked at envelope distortion interactively just by clicking and dragging points around. Another option for the envelope distortion, let's just move this down a little bit, is the ability to fit the text between curves. So we could say, okay, let's draw a rectangle. So we'll draw a very simple rectangle like this. Go to node editing, so node edit, place the cursor over the vertical span and delete. So we're going to delete that span, and we'll press the letter D to delete that span. We can select this drive curve, click and drag, move this point down, convert this to a bezier span, so place the cursor over the span, right click, bezier. Let's make this a curve, so we'll make this a curve like so. Now we can select the text, and it doesn't have to be text, it can be any vectors. Shift and select, sorry, I think we need to do the drive rails first. Shift and select the text, and we can say distort between two curves. Now the software is telling me there that we've got an invalid selection. That's because I selected the curves first. What we need to do is select the text, shift and select drive rail 1, drive rail 2. The software now tells me that the selection is correct. If I say apply, it's automatically fitted the text between those curves. We can now go in and use the editing tool. So although we've fitted the curves, we've still got bezier control here. So in fact, what I'm going to do is just escape. Let's delete the original lines. So shift and delete. Select the distorted object, and here we've got the option. The software knows it's a set of vectors that have been envelope distorted. We can say edit the envelope, or we can transform the object. Let's say we want to edit the envelope, and now we can click and we can change the shape of the design interactively to make it look a little bit more pleasing. So let's say we want Vectric to be like so, and we can drag this around. So we started by fitting the text or the vectors between two curves, but then we've moved on to interactively changing it as we did in the first instance. Again, baking the distortion converts the text to single vector boundaries. Okay, so we've looked at how to use some of the text drawing tools, how to use the letter kerning, and we can also use this tool for arcing or curving text, how to convert text to curves, fitting text around a circle or around, it doesn't have to be a circle, it can be a segment or a line, a curve. And then we've looked at some of the options available using the interactive distortion tool. Thank you for watching the tutorial.